At Christmas, my parents turned away my 9-year-old daughter at the door. She had to walk home alone carrying every gift she'd brought and spent Christmas in an empty house. When I found out, I didn't shout. I took action. 6 hours later, their lives started to unravel. I got home late on Christmas night, expecting an empty house, because my kid was supposed to be at my parents' place in Pasadena. Big dinner, cousins, and the sleepover she'd been talking about for weeks, like it was the main event of the century. Instead, the first thing I noticed was the smell. Something burnt. Not toast got away from you burnt. More like someone tried to make something special and it didn't go the way they planned. I stepped into the kitchen and saw it immediately. A pan on the stove with something dark in it, a plate on the table, a little trail of crumbs like someone had been moving around quietly, trying not to make noise. And then I saw what made my stomach drop, all the way through the floor. Her shoes, her coat. My 9-year-old was home. "Lily," I called. "Hey," she answered right away. She was sitting at the kitchen table in the same red velvet dress she'd worn when I dropped her off earlier that morning, shoulders tucked in tight like she was trying to take up less space in her own house. Not crying, not dramatic, just small. I stared at her for a second, trying to make reality line up. "You're supposed to be at Grandma and Grandpa's," I said. "I know." Her voice was too flat, like she'd practiced it. "Why are you here?" I asked, and I kept my tone calm on purpose. She blinked slowly. They turned me away. I didn't understand that sentence at first, like my brain refused to accept it. "Turned you away?" I repeated. "At the door?" Her fingers tightened around the edge of the plate. "They said there wasn't enough space." I stared at her. Space for what? She looked at me like I'd asked why snow is cold. For me. And that's when I noticed the gifts. All of them neatly lined up by the entryway, bags upright, tags still attached, tissue paper still fluffed like she couldn't stand the idea of them looking messy even now. The gifts she'd been so proud of. The gifts we'd dropped off with her. My throat tightened. "Why are the gifts here?" Lily swallowed. "They didn't want them." My chest went cold. "They told you to take them back?" I asked. She nodded once. I looked at her face, trying to keep mine steady, and asked the question that really mattered. "Why didn't you call me?" Her eyes flicked down. "My phone died," she whispered. "I asked Grandma if I could use theirs like the house phone." "And?" I asked, even though I already knew. "She said no," Lily said, and her voice cracked on the last word. "She said it would just make it harder, and you were busy with Great-Grandma Rose anyway. Busy, right?" "And then Grandpa said I should just walk home," she added like it was the most normal solution in the world, "because it's not that far." I just stared at her. It's not far when you're an adult who knows the neighborhood, when you're not carrying gift bags that dig into your hands, when you're not 9 years old and it's Christmas Day and every window you pass has people inside. "How long did you walk?" I asked quietly. "Maybe 25 minutes, she said. I didn't really know which way at first because we always drive. Something sharp moved under my ribs and stayed there. I glanced back at the stove, then at the plate in front of her. "And this?" I said softly. "You tried to cook?" Her cheeks flushed, like she'd been caught stealing. "I got hungry," she whispered, "and I wanted to make it feel like Christmas." That landed harder than the door turning away. "I watched a video on YouTube," she added quickly. "I tried. It just burned." She pointed at the pan. "It's fine." I opened the window. The fact that she was trying to reassure me, like she was the problem, made my throat ache. I pulled a chair out and sat beside her. "Start from the beginning," I said gently. She took a breath that shook. "You dropped me off at their house on Maple Street, and I went right up," she said. "Like you told me." I nodded. Grandma Diane opened the door and just... Lily's eyes slid away. Looked surprised, like she forgot I was coming. My jaw tightened. Then Aunt Rachel said, "Oh, just oh." Lily's mouth twisted. And Grandma said it was a full house. Not enough chairs. "What about the cousins?" I asked, already bracing. "They were inside," she whispered. They could see me through the window. She swallowed hard and pushed through anyway. Tyler laughed and said my dress looked like something from an old lady's closet. The words came out bitter. And nobody stopped him? I asked carefully. Lily shook her head. Grandpa just said, let's not start drama. I let out a short breath through my nose, because dry humor is what happens when rage is too big to hold. Right. Because letting a 9-year-old come inside would have been a real scene. Lily gave a tiny, miserable half smile. It disappeared immediately. I tried to give Grandma her gift, she whispered. The ornament I made. My eyes snapped to her. The ceramic one. She nodded, and tears finally slipped out like her face got tired of pretending. I painted her name on it in gold, she said, and she didn't even touch it. She just said, not now, maybe later. A sob hit her like a hiccup. She turned her face away fast, embarrassed by her own feelings, like she was the one being inappropriate. I slid my arm around her shoulders and pulled her close. She leaned into me immediately, like she'd been holding herself upright on stubbornness alone. I'm sorry, she whispered into my sweater. No, I said steady. You don't apologize for this, she sniffed. I ruined Christmas. You didn't ruin anything, I said. They did. She wiped her face with her sleeve and stared at the plate. I tried, she whispered. I really tried. And that was the whole heartbreak in one sentence. She tried to create Christmas for herself in an empty house because the people who were supposed to love her decided she didn't deserve a chair. I didn't shout. I didn't call my mother and start a screaming match. Lily didn't need to hear that. She didn't need to feel like she'd caused a war. So I swallowed it. Every sharp word. I held Lily a little tighter, and in my head something clicked into place. I didn't make a scene. I took action. 6 hours later, their lives started to fall apart. I wish I could tell you my parents became like this overnight. It would be comforting in a way, like they caught a virus called entitlement and woke up one morning unable to recognize their own granddaughter. But this wasn't new. It just finally had the audacity to show its face in public. My sister Rachel was always the favorite, not in the subtle parents love you differently way, in the openly distributed scoreboard on the fridge way. Rachel was older, louder, easier for them. She was the kid they wanted. I was the kid who showed up later like an unexpected bill. When I was little, my mother used to say things like, "You're so much work," the way some people say this suitcase is heavy. Not cruelly. Worse. Casually. Like it was a fact of nature. Like needing care was a character flaw. By the time I was old enough to understand tone, I understood mine. Burden. And then I got pregnant. Young, unplanned, 22 years old. The father barely qualified as present for the part where you need an actual human being. I never walked into my parents' house in Pasadena and asked them to fund my life. I didn't have the energy for it. I was too busy being terrified. But they treated me like I'd already sent them an invoice for $1 million. My father's first reaction was, "So what? We're supposed to pay for this?" My mother's was, "You're embarrassing this family," as if my pregnancy had personally set fire to their reputation. They bought Lily a onesie once. One. My mother held it up at Thanksgiving like she'd sponsored a small village. "See," she told relatives, "we help her." Then she went back to her life of charity galas and book club meetings. Rachel, of course, played the part of concerned sister. She'd show up with advice and disappear the second anything required actual effort. She'd cry when it made her look good. She'd talk about sacrifices she never made. I moved out when Lily was 6 months old. I raised her alone in a small apartment in Glendale. I postponed finishing my degree at UCLA. I worked as an administrative assistant at a law firm because I needed steady hours and a paycheck that didn't bounce. I took evening classes when I could, the kind where you eat dinner out of a plastic container in your car in the community college parking lot and pretend that's normal. It wasn't glamorous, it was survival. And if I'm honest, survival suited me better than begging. The one person who didn't treat me like a mistake was my grandmother, Rose. She never asked why I wasn't more careful. She never made me apologize for needing help. She just showed up in the ways she could. Grandma Rose wasn't perfect. She was blunt. She was frugal to the point of comedy. She once told me, "If you buy something full price, you deserve what happens to you," like it was a moral principle. But she was love in a family that treated love like a limited resource. As she got older, she developed leg problems, arthritis, circulation issues, the kind of pain that makes short distances feel like mountains. She could still think clearly. She could still roast you with one sentence if you said something stupid. But moving around became harder, and my parents acted like she was inconvenient. They'd call her to check in and then brag about it on Facebook. They'd visit once a month, take a photo with her at her small condo in Alhambra, and post it with captions like "Family is everything and blessed to have mom." Then they'd leave and not come back until the next photo opportunity. Rachel was the same. If Grandma Rose was a person who needed help, Rachel forgot she existed. If Grandma Rose was an inheritance, suddenly Rachel cared deeply about her well-being and would send long texts about how concerned she was. I was the one who drove Grandma Rose to her doctor appointments at Kaiser Permanente, the one who brought groceries from Trader Joe's because she liked their prices, the one who learned how to help her move safely so she wouldn't fall when she stood up. I even took a short caregiving course at the community center because I was tired of feeling like I was guessing with someone I loved. It saved money. It made me useful. It made Grandma feel less helpless, which mattered more than any certification from some fancy program. And the more time I spent with her, the more I noticed something uncomfortable. My parents treated Grandma Rose the way they treated me, like a burden, like a task, like a thing you tolerate until you can go back to your real life. Meanwhile, Grandma had helped them financially, quietly, the way she did everything, without fanfare, without splashing it around on social media. At some point, about 8 years ago, my parents moved into a house in Pasadena that everyone in the family referred to as the house Grandma Rose gave them. That phrase became gospel. Grandma gave them the house. Grandma gifted it. Grandma wanted them to have space for family gatherings. My parents started speaking about it like it was theirs by divine right, like God himself had decided they deserved a 4-bedroom house with a pool. And after they got it, they visited Grandma Rose even less. It was almost impressive, the way they treated generosity like a completion stamp. Like once Grandma gave them something valuable, she had no further use. Grandma, meanwhile, lived in a small 2-bedroom condo in Alhambra by choice. She said it was easier, less to clean, less to worry about. She didn't want a big place to manage by herself. She liked comfort, not attention, and that's why this Christmas mattered. Grandma Rose couldn't join the big celebration this year. Her legs were worse. The idea of a crowded house and stairs and chaos was too much for her body to handle. My parents didn't offer to go to her. They didn't offer to bring Christmas dinner to her condo. They didn't even offer to FaceTime her until I suggested it. So I chose her. And I chose Lily, too, by letting her have the big family Christmas she'd been dreaming of. My parents' house in Pasadena was always fancy and organized the way Lily loved. Cousins invited, games set up, cookies baking, a sleepover that felt like a rite of passage for a 9-year-old. Lily had put her whole heart into those gifts. She'd saved her allowance. She'd made things in her art class at school. She'd worried about what people would like. She'd wrapped everything carefully with paper she'd picked out herself at Target. She was proud of it. She didn't mind me not coming because to her it was still family. That's what made it so crushing when they told her she should celebrate somewhere else. Not enough chairs, not enough space, not enough room for her. And while they sat around their table in Pasadena feeling satisfied with their perfect Christmas, they didn't know what was already starting to unravel. That night, I had 2 jobs: get my daughter back to herself and keep my parents from doing any more damage while she was still bleeding on the inside. Lily wasn't dramatic about it. That was the problem. She moved around our kitchen like she was trying not to disturb the air, like she didn't deserve to take up space in her own house. I didn't lecture her about the stove. I didn't point at the burnt pan like it was Exhibit A and why you shouldn't cook alone at 9 years old. We could talk about safety later. Tonight, the bigger emergency was shame. So I did what moms do when they don't have the right words. I made hot chocolate from the packets we kept in the cupboard and pretended I wasn't furious enough to chew through drywall. Extra marshmallows because trauma is not the time to practice moderation. Lily sat at the table with her mug between her hands like it was the only warm thing left in the world. Every few minutes, her eyes drifted to the gifts lined up by the door. Still perfect, still unwanted. I kept catching myself thinking I should drive back to Pasadena. I should knock on their door. I should make them say it to my face. And then I'd look at my daughter's shoulders, how tight they were, how small she'd made herself, and I'd swallow it. Because I wasn't going to turn her night into a screaming match soundtrack. Then my phone buzzed. Grandma Rose. Not a long, chatty call. Grandma Rose didn't do long and chatty, unless she was giving you advice you didn't ask for. She did check-ins. Practical, efficient, to the point. I answered and put it on speaker because my hands were busy with marshmallows and because Lily's whole face lifted just hearing the ringtone. "Hey, Grandma, put me where I can see you," she said immediately. No hello, no how are you. Grandma didn't waste time on greetings when she could be efficient with love. So I switched to FaceTime. Grandma appeared on my screen with her reading glasses on, and that look she got when she was about to correct someone's grammar. Lily leaned toward the phone like it was a window. "Merry Christmas, great-grandma," she said, trying so hard to sound normal that it made my throat tighten. Grandma's face softened instantly. "Merry Christmas, sweetheart." Lily smiled. It lasted half a second. Then it wobbled, and the tears showed up anyway. Quiet, stubborn tears she didn't want anyone to see. Grandma didn't miss it. Grandma never missed anything. "What happened?" she asked, calm but sharp, like her brain had already started putting pieces together. Lily glanced at me with that kid panic. "Don't get anyone in trouble." And then she broke anyway, because truth doesn't stay trapped forever. "They wouldn't let me in," she whispered. Grandma's expression went still. "Who?" "Grandma Diane and Grandpa Tom," Lily said, and her voice cracked. "They said there wasn't space, and they didn't take the gifts I made." Grandma blinked once, slow. The kind of blink that means I'm choosing my next words carefully because I don't want to say something that ends in arson. Lily wiped her face fast. "I tried to use their phone," she added, like she needed to justify herself. "Mine had died. I asked nicely. They said no." Grandma's mouth tightened into a thin line. "And you walked home?" she asked quietly. Lily nodded. "Grandpa Tom said it wasn't far, just down the street." Grandma didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She looked straight at my daughter through the screen and said, "Sweetheart, you listened to me. You did nothing wrong." Nothing. Lily made a little sound, like she wanted to climb inside those words and live there forever. Grandma continued, her voice firm. "You were polite. You brought gifts you made with your own hands. You showed up with love. If anyone should be ashamed, it's the people who shut a child out at their door on Christmas Day." Lily's chin trembled. I pulled her closer with my arm, and she leaned into me, like she'd been holding herself up on pride alone. Grandma's gaze flicked to me. "Jessica." "Yes," I said, already braced for whatever was coming. Her voice sharpened like a blade. "I gave them that house so they'd have space for family." Space for family. I didn't interrupt. I didn't steer the conversation. I didn't feed her lines. I just sat there holding my child, letting Grandma connect her own dots. Grandma's eyes narrowed behind her glasses, and they used that space to turn my great-granddaughter away at the door. I felt my stomach drop because when Grandma got quiet like this, people got consequences. "I won't allow it," she said. "Grandma," I started automatically, because I wasn't trying to light a match near gasoline. "No," she cut in. "My legs hurt, that's all. My brain works just fine." "I know," I said softly. Grandma's voice went even calmer, which somehow made it more terrifying. I'm going to undo it. I blinked. Undo what? The house, she said simply. I stared at the screen. Grandma, you can't ungift a house. Grandma's lips twitched barely. You'd be surprised what you can do when people don't read paperwork carefully. It sounded like a riddle. It sounded like a promise. Lily sniffed and wiped her face again, trying to pull herself together, like she hadn't just been told she didn't deserve a chair at her own family's table. Grandma softened toward her immediately. Finish your cocoa, she ordered gently, and next Christmas you'll be where you belong. Lily nodded, small and careful, like she was afraid to hope too much. We ended the call a minute later. Grandma told Lily she loved her. Grandma told me to lock my doors. Grandma never missed an opportunity to assume the world was full of criminals, including apparently my own parents. After that, I focused on the only thing that mattered, getting my daughter through the rest of the night without letting that shame set like concrete. We watched Home Alone on Netflix. We sat under a blanket on our secondhand couch. Lily fell asleep in that exhausted way kids do when they've held themselves together for too long. And then, before midnight, before my brain could even finish processing Grandma's cryptic paperwork comment, my phone rang again. Mom. I answered, and she didn't even inhale first. What did you do? No hello. No, is Lily okay? Just pure panicked rage. I held the phone away from my ear slightly. What are you talking about? Don't play stupid, she snapped. Grandma Rose called us. On Christmas night. She's saying the house isn't ours and we have to move out. My stomach dropped hard, a free-fall feeling. What? I said, genuinely shocked. You think this is funny? She shrieked. While we were all celebrating, you went over there to poison her against us. You turned her... I didn't, I interrupted. You're a snake, she spat, her voice venomous. You've always been jealous. You've always wanted what we have. I stared at our dark kitchen, at the burnt pan still on the stove, at the gifts lined up like silent witnesses. I don't know what Grandma told you, I said carefully, my voice controlled. But I didn't plan anything. I didn't even know she was going to call you. Oh, please, my mother snapped. You've been circling her like a vulture for years, waiting for this. Something in me went cold and clean, like ice water in my veins. My daughter came home tonight, I said low and steady. She was turned away at your door in Pasadena. She walked home alone, carrying gifts you refused to take. There was a pause, half a second of silence, where I could almost hear her brain searching for a way to make that not matter. Then she hissed, "Don't change the subject. This is about what you did to manipulate an elderly woman." Of course, I said quietly. You excluded a child, I said, each word measured. On Christmas. We didn't have enough chairs, she snapped defensively. And she was fine. You're raising her to be dramatic just like you were. She stood outside your door, I said, my voice like steel, and you wouldn't even let her use your phone to call me. My mother's voice rose. You should have kept her with you then if you cared so much. You're the one who abandoned her to go sit with Rose. The audacity was almost impressive, and then she said it, like it had been sitting on her tongue for years, waiting for permission. We should have excluded you a long time ago. Like Lily's Christmas was just collateral damage in a larger project of punishing me for existing, for getting pregnant, for not being Rachel. I said quietly, You're not going to rewrite what you did. My mother laughed, sharp and ugly. You think you've won something? You think Grandma is even stable enough to make these decisions? Then, in a voice that made my skin crawl, she added, We'll handle her. The line went dead. I stood in my kitchen, staring at my phone like it had turned into a snake. Grandma had said she would undo something. My mother was terrified. My daughter was asleep down the hall, with tear tracks still faint on her face, and I still didn't understand how any of this was possible, only that something had started moving, and my parents were already trying to grab the wheel. The next morning, I called Grandma Rose at her condo in Alhambra. No answer. I called again. Nothing. That by itself didn't send me into a panic spiral immediately. Grandma was many things. Tech-savvy wasn't one of them. Sometimes she'd leave her phone in the kitchen and wander into her bedroom and forget the phone existed. But it didn't sit right in my stomach, especially after last night's call. I tried again 15 minutes later. Still no answer. Lily came into the kitchen, rubbing her eyes, her hair sticking up like she'd fought a pillow and lost. "Did great-grandma call?" she asked softly, hopefully. "No," I said, keeping my voice light and normal. "Not yet, sweetie." Lily's mouth tightened. "Is she mad at me?" My heart clenched. "No, baby, no. None of this is your fault. I promise you that." Lily nodded like she wanted to believe me, but shame doesn't disappear just because you tell it to. "We're going to go see her," I said, making the decision right then. "Okay? We'll bring her those cookies she likes from Trader Joe's." Lily's face softened a little. "Okay." We drove to Grandma Rose's place in Alhambra mid-morning, the Sunday after Christmas. It was quiet, like the world was still recovering from the holiday. I parked in the visitor spot, and we walked up to her ground floor unit. I knocked, waited, knocked again. No answer. I tried calling her from the porch, watching through the window for movement inside. Still nothing. "Maybe she's sleeping," Lily offered quietly. "Maybe," I said, but my hand was already moving to my keyring. Grandma had given me a spare key years ago for emergencies, and her definition of emergency included if I don't answer my phone and you get annoying about it. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The apartment was too quiet. Not old person napping quiet. Empty quiet. I moved through the living room, calling her name. "Grandma? It's Jessica." No response. Then I saw what was missing. Her walker wasn't by the wall where it always sat. The blanket she used every night, the blue one with white flowers, was gone from her recliner. A small overnight bag that usually sat in her closet, gone. My breath caught. Lily's voice came from behind me, small and scared. "Where is she?" "I don't know," I said, and my voice sounded like it belonged to someone else, someone calmer than I felt. I walked outside, hands shaking now, and went straight to the neighbor across the hall, Mrs. Chen. She opened the door in her bathrobe, hair in a clip, with that exact face people make when they're about to say something they know you won't like. "Oh, honey," she said before I could even speak. "Your mother was here this morning." My stomach dropped like an elevator with cut cables. "When?" "Early," she said. Early. I was getting my newspaper. They had a car out front, a silver SUV. "Did Grandma go with them?" I asked, and I hated how my voice sounded. Too controlled, too polite, like I was asking about a package delivery instead of a potential kidnapping. Mrs. Chen hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. "They had her walker. Your mother was talking fast. Your grandmother didn't look happy, honey. Upset." "Did she say where they were taking her?" I asked. Mrs. Chen shook her head apologetically. "No, I didn't hear that part. I'm sorry. I should have asked, but it all happened so fast." "It's okay," I said automatically, because apparently I'm the kind of person who says it's okay while her life is imploding. "Thank you for telling me." I walked back into Grandma's apartment and stood there for half a second trying to decide how to breathe. Lily was by the doorway, gripping the bag of cookies from Trader Joe's like it was a weapon. "Did they—" she started, her voice breaking. "I don't know," I said. Then, because she's 9 and her brain goes to terrible places, I added immediately, "She's alive. She's okay. We're going to find her. I promise." I did not believe my own calm voice. I just needed her to borrow it for a little while. I called my mom. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. I called my dad. Voicemail. I stood in the hallway outside Grandma's condo, staring at my phone, like if I glared hard enough, it would start behaving. Lily tugged my sleeve. Maybe they took her to their house in Pasadena. That was the first sensible idea anyone had said all morning. So we drove back to Pasadena. The whole way there, I kept checking my mirrors like the world had suddenly become unsafe in a way I couldn't name. Lily sat quietly in the passenger seat, eyes fixed on her lap, and I could feel her trying to be good so I wouldn't fall apart. When we pulled into my parents' driveway on Maple Street, I didn't even turn the engine off properly. I just killed it and got out. I knocked hard on their front door, the one with the expensive wreath still hanging from yesterday. My mother opened the door like she'd been expecting me, and her face was already set for battle. "Where is Grandma Rose?" I said flatly. Her eyes narrowed. "Lower your voice. The neighbors—" I stared at her. "Where is Grandma Rose?" "She's fine," my mother snapped. "And you're not barging in here to upset her with your drama." "I'm not here to argue," I said, and my voice did that cold thing it does when I'm trying not to explode in front of a child. "I'm here to see my grandmother. Right now." My mother stepped into the doorway like a bouncer at a club. "After what you did." "I didn't do anything," I said, "except come home to my kid sitting alone with burned food on the stove because you wouldn't let her inside your house." "Don't start with that again," my mother hissed. "I'm not starting," I said. "I'm finishing." Emma stood behind me, very still, very quiet. My mother glanced at her and then looked away quickly, like eye contact might make her feel something inconvenient, like guilt. "Your grandmother is resting," she said. "She doesn't need your drama and accusations right now." "Then let her tell me that," I said. "Let me hear it from her own mouth." My mother's lips pressed into a thin line. No. That single word was the moment everything changed. Not because I expected my mother to be reasonable. I've met her. I know better. But because she was blocking me from even seeing Grandma Rose. That's not family drama. That's control. That's imprisonment. I pulled my phone out again and dialed 911. My mother's face twisted. "Are you serious right now?" "Jessica, this is embarrassing." "Yes," I said, not blinking. "I'm serious." She made it sound like I was personally humiliating her, which honestly was a nice break from her usual hobby of humiliating me. I told the dispatcher exactly what I knew. My grandmother was missing from her home in Alhambra. Her mobility equipment and belongings were gone. My mother had taken her early this morning from her condo, and my family was now refusing to let me confirm she was okay or even speak to her. I didn't give a speech. I didn't theorize. I just gave facts, names, addresses, timeline. Lily's hand slid into mine while we waited, small, cold, trusting. When the Pasadena police officers arrived about 12 minutes later, my mother immediately switched into her "I pay taxes and donate to charities" voice. "Oh, good," she said brightly, like this was a neighborhood watch meeting. "There's been a misunderstanding about my mother-in-law. My daughter is being dramatic." The officer, a woman with dark hair pulled back, didn't smile. "We need to see your mother-in-law, ma'am." My mother's face tightened. "She's resting." "We still need to see her," the officer said. Same tone, not rude, not negotiable, just factual. My mother stalled just long enough to make my heart bang against my ribs. Then she stepped aside like she was being personally oppressed by the Constitution. Grandma Rose was in the back guest room, in her walker, blanket across her lap, eyes sharp as knives. The second she saw me, something in my chest unclenched so hard it almost hurt. Relief hit first, then anger right behind it. Lily made a small sound and moved forward before I could stop her. Grandma reached out immediately and took her hand like she'd been waiting for that specific proof of life. "There you are," Grandma said, her voice rough but clear. Lily nodded, tears already forming. "I thought you were mad at me." Grandma's eyes flashed. "I'm mad at the right people, sweetheart. Not you. Never you." One of the officers crouched down slightly to be at Grandma's eye level. "Ma'am, are you okay? Are you here because you want to be?" Grandma didn't hesitate even a fraction of a second. No. My mother jumped in immediately. She's confused. She has memory issues sometimes. Grandma turned her head slowly, deliberately, and said, "If you interrupt me again, Diane, I'm adding it to the list of reasons you're losing everything." The officer looked back at Grandma. "Do you want to leave this house, ma'am?" "Yes," Grandma said firmly. "Now. Please." My mother's mouth opened, closed, opened again like a fish. It was like watching someone realize their favorite puppet had learned how to cut its own strings. The officers didn't lecture anyone. They didn't do a dramatic courtroom monologue like on TV. They just made space, literally and figuratively. They made it clear Grandma could leave, that it was her choice, that no one could stop her. And when Grandma Rose rolled past my mother in her walker, she didn't even look at her. That silence said more than any yelling ever could. I got Grandma into my car in the driveway. Lily climbed into the back seat beside her without being asked and held her hand like she was anchoring her to the planet. Grandma looked at me in the driver's seat and said, "Call my lawyer. Monday morning. His name is David Chen. I know exactly what I'm doing." Grandma Rose called her lawyer, David Chen, from my apartment in Glendale. He agreed to see us that afternoon, even though it was the day after Christmas, and technically his office was closed. He said, "For you, Rose. I'll come in." His office was in a modest building in Monterey Park. I drove. Lily sat in back, holding Grandma's hand the whole way. Mr. Chen met us at the door himself. He was maybe 60, wearing jeans and a sweater instead of a suit. He looked at Grandma and said, "Rose, what did they do?" Grandma's jaw tightened. "They turned my great-granddaughter away at the door on Christmas." That was all she needed to say. Mr. Chen's expression shifted, went cold in a professional way. He looked at Lily. "You must be Lily. I've heard a lot about you." Lily nodded shyly. Mr. Chen gestured us inside. "Let's see what we can fix." We sat in his office, which smelled like old books and coffee. He pulled out a thick folder with my parents' names on it. "Okay," he said, looking at me. "Here's what your family has been calling a gift." He slid papers across the desk. "The house in Pasadena isn't in your parents' names. It's owned by your grandmother's living trust. Your parents were listed as beneficiaries, meaning they were set to receive it after Rose passes away. But while Rose is alive and mentally competent, she can change the beneficiaries at any time." My stomach dropped. So they've been acting like it already belongs to them. "They've been acting like a lot of things," Grandma muttered darkly. Mr. Chen didn't even blink. He'd clearly seen this movie before. "Rose can also change how her other assets are distributed. Her savings accounts, her investment accounts, everything. Same principle. Beneficiaries can be updated as long as she's of sound mind." Grandma tapped the arm of her walker. "Good. Because they don't get a reward for cruelty." He asked Grandma a series of straightforward questions. Calm, respectful, just confirming she understood what she was signing and that no one was pressuring her. Grandma answered like she was personally offended the world required proof she still had a functioning brain. "Do you understand that changing these documents means your daughter and son-in-law will no longer inherit your house or your savings?" "Yes, and good riddance. Do you understand this decision is permanent unless you choose to change it again?" "Yes, I understand completely. Are you making this decision of your own free will?" "Absolutely. Nobody's forcing me. I'm doing this because they earned it." Then Mr. Chen printed what needed printing. Grandma signed where she needed to sign. Witnesses signed, Mr. Chen's paralegal and his secretary, both of whom came in on their day off. Pages were initialed, dated, notarized, and just like that, the names my parents thought were carved in stone weren't anymore. My name went where theirs used to be. A trust was set up for Lily's future, education, healthcare, security, because Grandma wasn't just angry, she was deliberate. Lily sat close the whole time, quiet, still holding Grandma's hand like she was afraid someone would drag her away again. When it was done, Grandma looked at Mr. Chen and said, "Now I want them kept away from me." Restraining order. He nodded once, already reaching for another set of documents. We'll file that this week, and we'll start the eviction process to get them out of the house. It's legally yours, Rose. They're just living there. Grandma turned her sharp gaze on me. I gave them space, she said. They used it to shrink a child. Lily's eyes filled, but this time she didn't look ashamed. She looked relieved, like someone had finally said out loud that it wasn't her fault. Grandma squeezed her fingers. Next Christmas, she told her, you're not standing outside anyone's door. Fast forward to this Christmas. Lily and I are in the house my parents used to call theirs in Pasadena. Not because I wanted some trophy or revenge, because Grandma Rose wanted the truth reflected in paperwork, and because she moved in with us after everything went down. We made it actually livable for someone with mobility issues. A ramp at the front entrance, wider doorways, grab bars in the bathroom, a bedroom on the main floor so she wouldn't have to deal with stairs. Funny how not enough space magically turns into plenty of space when you're not using it to punish people. The house is worth about $425,000 according to the most recent appraisal. Grandma Rose also had about $180,000 in savings and investment accounts. She changed the beneficiaries on all of it. Part went into an emergency fund for her care, home health aides, medical expenses, whatever she needs. The rest went into a trust for Lily's college education and future. My parents got exactly what they earned. Nothing. They tried everything after the papers were served. Calling, crying, apologizing, blaming, threatening legal action, switching tactics like changing channels. My mother left voicemails saying I'd manipulated a vulnerable elderly woman. My father sent texts saying I'd destroyed the family. Rachel, my sister, posted vague things on Facebook about snakes in the family and how blood doesn't always mean loyalty. The irony was apparently lost on her. I don't answer their calls. I don't engage. Mr. Chen handles everything legal, and Grandma Rose made it very clear she wants no contact. They're living in a 2-bedroom apartment in Arcadia now, paying rent for the first time in 8 years. I heard through a cousin that my mother cries about it at family gatherings, about how I stole her mother's house, about how ungrateful I am after everything they did for me. Everything they did. Like what? Buying one onesie 10 years ago? Lily's different now. Quieter in a calmer way. Not the make myself small so I don't get rejected way. More like the I know who loves me and who doesn't way. She has her own room in the Pasadena house, decorated exactly how she wanted it. She invited friends over for a sleepover last month, the first time she'd ever felt confident enough to do that. And Grandma Rose? Still sharp, still stubborn, still very pleased with herself. Last week she said to me in the kitchen, "You know what the best part is?" I said, "What's that, Grandma?" She smiled. Knowing they have to drive past this house every time they visit Rachel. Knowing they see the lights on and know they're not welcome. It was petty. It was also fair. So tell me, did I go too far or not far enough?